Hello and welcome to the Switch Into Plan B podcast. I'm Jumbo.
And I'm Robin.
And in this one, we're reviewing the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, which it was redemption for Max, more pain for Ferrari, and Hamilton's Mercedes turns him into an old man.
Tires are okay for Plan B.
All right, so as Azerbaijan Grand Prix go, this was actually quite a boring one.
Yeah.
There wasn't, well, surprisingly, there actually wasn't too much action at all for some reason.
No, there wasn't that much excitement in the start or the middle or the end.
No. Obviously, did have things that happened, as we'll get onto them. But yeah, I was just a little bit underwhelmed, I guess is the word for, we hyped this up as this is going to be much better than Monaco. And it didn't really get there for me.
It's normally my favourite race, so I'm a bit disappointed.
Yeah. Anyway, let's start with Red Bull. A 1-2 for them, with Verstappen winning and Checo being P2.
And getting fastest lap.
And fastest lap as well.
So they got maximum points there.
They did. Did seem a little bit weird. I thought Checo had the edge over Max all weekend. And then he got to the race, where obviously that's the most important time to get points. And he just didn't.
No, yeah, it seems a bit weird. He didn't seem too annoyed about it.
Post-race,
which makes you think that maybe it was a car thing. Because in the race, I was wondering whether he was kind of not going at full speed.
just sort of coasting along, just sort of managing it. Yeah, maybe. I feel like it was a bit weird because they said that he obviously got a very good start. He got ahead of Leclerc. I don't know how Leclerc got such a bad start because it seemed like Verstappen nearly got him as well, but he positioned his car well. So Checo just took off at the beginning. And then I think after like lap 8, he just didn't really have any pace. And they were saying like he burned out his rear tyres. But then when he even went on the next set of tyres, he just never seemed to have the pace again. I'm not sure. Something just seemed to almost just change, didn't it? It was quite strange.
Yeah.
And that ended up being quite a fairly comfortable win for Max in the end. His race pace was pretty good. I think he won by like 20 seconds or something.
Yeah, and he was just managing his lap times. So that is quite an easy win if you're just managing lap times.
Yeah, I think it's quite impressive that they have the delta on their screen, but for them to actually go, right, I know how much time I can make and lose from corner to corner.
Yeah.
Is quite impressive. Like they're on a different level. Like it is mad when they know whereabouts they are and how much they actually need to push the car and all of that and how much the tyres there and all of that, which is insane when they start talking about that stuff. To me anyway, I'm just like, that's incredible that they can go, yeah, I need to do that lap time and this is how I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. But yeah, as I say, fairly comfortable for him, although we did have a little bit of team orders. They were sort of like, don't fight each other.
Yeah.
Which I want to see them go at it because after today and the mess that Ferrari made, we'll get onto that next, these two seem to be the two that might be
fighting for
the title.
Exactly,
So we want to see them go at it and it just doesn't quite seem like we're ever really going to get that.
We won't. Last week, there was some questions as to whether Perez is now going for it and he says he thinks that he's in a position to fight for the championship, but I kind of feel like Red Bull favours Max.
I think by default it falls back into that, doesn't it? That goes Max is number one, Checo's almost got that Bottas wingman sort of role. Exactly.
So I don't think Perez will win it.
No, and I think looking at it, obviously things changed so fast. When we did this podcast after Australia, we were saying this seems like it's Ferrari's to lose. And 5 races later, it's totally changed. And we're sitting here now going, surely this is Red Bull's to lose now. Surely one of their drivers is going to wrap it up and they'll get constructors relatively easy.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, I mean, it really depends. Mercedes could get a better car halfway through the season and they're not too far behind. So
I can't. I'm really optimistic that Mercedes will do it. And I thought they might have got past it. But looking at this weekend, I'm not sure. I don't think they will get to the bottom of that car. It's taking so long for them to work it out.
I want them to just to make the fight a little bit more interesting.
Yeah. But the other thing I was going to say is that we've seen teams like Haas where they're not really developing their car and they were going from sort of being in the midfield to being back to the back.
Yeah, it's quite a shame.
Two teams now. So it's...
it was quite good seeing them a bit more middle field.
But what I was saying is I just think Red Bull is going to keep developing their car now and this gap is just going to maintain almost. So yeah, I genuinely think Red Bull are in really commanding position going into the rest of the season. And moving on to Ferrari. It seems to go well on a Saturday for them. I think, was it Leclerc's had 6 pole positions out of 8 this season.
Yeah.
But it just all goes wrong on Sunday, whether that's strategy or the engine just decides to fart down the main street and just disintegrates, which is almost, it seems strange because we were saying that about Red Bull and we thought Ferrari might have a great opportunity here. And again, it's like it's flipped.
Yeah, I feel like Red Bull were lucky because they had it at the beginning and they managed to fix it all, I think. For now, anyway.
There's definitely more question marks over Ferrari.
Yeah, whereas Ferrari seemed like it was a better car early on. And then now things seem to be coming out. Problems seem to be coming out. So, I think it was better to be Red Bull than Ferrari, I think. Be rubbish at the beginning and then develop it rather than be developing and making the car worse. That's must be frustrating.
I think the biggest concern for me is that I'm pretty sure that was Leclerc's 3rd engine, and you can only have 3 engines for the whole season before you start incurring penalties. So we're at round 8, and I think he's used all 3 engines. They've all blown up, basically.
Right.
So you've got 2/3 of the seasons to go, and you're going to have to take a penalty for the next one. At Canada, probably, I would have thought, unless they can somehow salvage it, but I'm not sure. And then you're thinking, that engine's not going to last for the rest of the season. There's no way. So he's going to incur a lot of penalties, which is then just going to make that title fight even harder for him.
Yeah.
We also saw problems for Carlos as well, with a double DNF for Ferrari. So that was a hydraulic problem. That was quite early on as well, wasn't it? I want to say that was in like the first 10 laps, I think.
Yeah, because that's when everyone pitted, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, so a lot of cars stopped under the virtual safety car. We also had K-Mag had another engine problem. It seemed like there was smoke coming out of the car.
Yeah.
And then I think slightly before that, we had Zhou Guanyu had a problem as well with his Alfa Romeo, which actually was a bit of a shame because he was having a great race.
Yeah.
I predicted that he was going to have a bit of a shocker, but he looked very good this weekend, actually.
Technically, he did have a shocker because he DNF'd.
Yeah, but I feel like that was out of his hands, really. But going back to Ferrari, if it's not questions over their strategy and they can't get the strategy right, it then seems to be the reliability and durability of that Ferrari power unit. So, yeah, I'm hoping that they can sort this out and we can have a proper title fight between 2 teams and it's not just going to be Red Bull running away. But, yeah, it looks a bit worrying for Ferrari at the moment.
There's still a long way to go.
Yeah, and, only 5 races ago, Red Bull looked like they were throwing it away, basically. So, in 5 races' time, when we're coming up towards the season break, Ferrari might be right back in it. We don't know. So that's the top 2 teams done. We'll move on to Mercedes, who managed to finish 3rd and 4th due to a double DNF for Ferrari. Russell again seeming to have the edge over Hamilton, would you say?
It might have been more because of the way they
set up the cars. There's a lot of noise going around this that they're actually not the same car.
Right, I was going to say qualified. The way they qualified. Russell qualified ahead of...
Where was he, like 5th, I think?
Hamilton.
Russell, 7th for Hamilton. But again, do you think that's due to the setup? Because there's noises coming out that actually they're trying to work out what on earth is going on with the car. So both cars are set up differently, and they're experimenting with different things.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure it's just the case that Lewis has got the worst rubber, the green with this.
Right, yeah, it could be.
It could be that, or they could be the same car and Russell just has an edge at the moment. It could be that as well.
Yeah.
I also do feel like Lewis seems to be very unlucky at the moment. Like, it will change, but he does seem to be unlucky. Well, at the VSC, he had to wait for a little bit behind Russell. And then he lost out to Vettel.
Yeah.
And, I just feel like he's had that a lot this season.
Yeah. But he hasn't complained about it, though.
No, I mean, what can you do? It's just that's how it's played out for him. I just feel like it's a bit unlucky, and to a certain extent, you create your own luck. He probably should have been higher up in qualifying. But then again, is that the car? There's lots of factors in this. Yeah. I generally do think that Russell seems much more comfortable in that car.
Yeah. I mean, we saw how Hamilton got out of the car today.
Oh, I really felt really sorry for him because he generally looked old, didn't he? He looked really old.
Yeah.
It reminded me of, is it Spider-Man 2 where Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man goes, oh, my back.
Yeah.
It looked a bit like that. And I'm sure there's going to be
loads of memes.
A crap ton of memes just
I'll
going
look forward
everywhere.
to it. It is sad, but it is also a little bit funny.
You don't want to see someone in pain, but It was there was a little bit that I was chuckling, and like you had Toto on the phone like in the next shot, and it was almost like he was going, "Yeah, we're going to need a wheelchair or a Zimmer frame for Hamilton for Canada or something," because Lewis genuinely looked like he was in pain.
Yeah.
And he didn't look like he wanted to do the media stuff or anything like that either.
I don't think any of them want to do the media stuff though.
But yeah, they need to sort out that bouncing. I think they even said like Ricciardo with the McLaren.
Yeah, he said it's like the first time they've had it. And he said he really feels for the people that have had it from day one. He said it's definitely something that needs to be looked at for the well-being of the drivers.
So I think maybe because I also think Lando's been quite sort of anti sort of no, the rules are fine sort of thing because he hasn't experienced it. So maybe once you start to experience it, you start to go, maybe for the long-termness of this might not be good for the driver's health actually.
Yeah, I don't think Lando's been saying no, it's fine. I think his argument from where I'm sitting is that the McLaren have made decisions to make the car not bounce and therefore they're slower. Yeah. And so he's thinking that the teams can get rid of this if they just sacrifice speed. So it's a bit like, I understand it. That's kind of what I understood from it. But it's like, you know, he's probably thinking, yeah, you don't need to complain about that because it can be fixed. It's just that you won't be fast.
Yeah, you're right with that. I think it's a lot of it's to do with ride height. I mean, you can hear that Mercedes bottoming out. It's actually smacking into the floor. You can hear it skidding along the straight. So all you need to do in theory is raise the car, but you won't get as much downforce from it. So it's a bit like, do these rules, do they need to just say, okay, well then there needs to be a minimum ride height for everyone? But also, like, is it really fair that just because Mercedes are complaining about it, this is a team that's dominated sport for ages, no one's going to really go, oh yeah, do you know what, we'll change the rules just for Mercedes. Like, if other teams have already worked it out, like, they didn't change the rules to benefit Mercedes back in 2014. Mercedes just got it, and then they didn't try and do it because, I don't know, Ferrari weren't as quick from the off. Does that make sense? Like, you can't change the rules just to suit one team. I understand there is
I don't think the teams are looking for rules to be changed, are they?
I don't know. They are talking about possibly, you know, have a fixed ride height. So that's the ride height that no one go below or something like that. To stop it from smacking into the...
I'd not picked up on that. I thought it was more like when Carlos came out and said that it wasn't good to have the porpoising and the bouncing and stuff. I felt like that was more drivers complaining out loud so that sometimes, you know... FIA might say, oh, because of safety reasons, you have to get rid of the bouncing, and so teams then are pushed to do it, rather than at the moment, it's not that big a problem. It's just that the drivers have to be really uncomfortable.
I think there's a lot of pressure on the FIA to come out and make a decision. But then again, why should they? They
shouldn't. I don't think they should, and there's no need to it. I think it's more teams need to... I know they're working hard, but they just really need to find a solution.
As far as I'm concerned, this is a bit like, okay, if these rules, I don't think the rules are terrible and it's not happening to everyone. Does this make sense? It should be more that the teams that are having it bad, you need to find out what's going on. Yeah. And it's up to you. You're putting your drivers and your employees at this risk.
Yeah.
So it's on your head as opposed to being on the FIA. I feel like that you could argue both sides here.
Yeah.
So it's a difficult one. Whether we see anything, I'm going to go with we won't see any changes to this. I think that is literally up to the teams to sort it out themselves.
Yeah, and I think the teams want to sort it, so they will sort it because it's probably not very good on the car.
No, it can't be. That must have damaged the Mercedes today, surely.
Yeah.
Moving on to AlphaTauris. They seem to have a great weekend.
I know.
Was it Gasly finished P5? He was running in P4 for a lot of the race. I feel like under, was it the second virtual safety car, they should have pitted, they should have stopped him.
Yeah.
Because, and changed the tyres, because that's kind of what did him in terms of Hamilton getting him.
Because Hamilton pitted.
Yeah, and had the fresher tyres, and he managed to just be something like ridiculous, like a second a lap quicker or something. And maybe Hamilton would have done it anyway, because I assume that Mercedes is quicker than an AlphaTauri, but I don't know, when you think Gasly could have just done his classic, just rock up in P4, first time we'd seen it this season, where he's actually got some pace, so that was cool to see.
Yeah.
And Yuki, I think, was like 6th or 7th for a while. And then the weirdest thing, I've never seen this before, but the DRS flap actually broke on half of it, which was really peculiar. I've never seen that like fail like that. I've seen it fail where it doesn't open. We've had that with Max earlier in like Spain and stuff. And I've seen it get stuck open where they have to come to the pits and then literally jump on it to try and push it down. So lock down.
Yeah. But never split in the middle.
I've never seen it split in the middle. Yeah, it's really peculiar. Bear in mind, we've had this for like 10 years or something. It's quite interesting to see. And then they got waved, was it a black and orange flag?
Yeah.
Which is something along the lines of you have to go to, you've got damage that needs to be fixed or repairable damage that needs to be fixed. So you have to come in and sort that out.
Right.
And they just shoved duct tape on it.
Yeah.
When in doubt, duct tape, I guess. That was kind of my shout when we were watching, just saying, just tape it up.
Yeah.
It was quite a shoddy job though, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. I guess they had seconds to do it, didn't they?
Yeah.
So.
And part of me thought, by the time you've already done that, I think he ended up finishing like 13th or something. Well, I don't know why they didn't just go, do you know what, we'll save this engine. We've already had the points and all of that. Like just...
Yeah.
I don't know why they... After you'd seen it, I was just like, what, is it really that... Was it worth it? I don't know. But I felt a bit sorry for Yuki because I feel like he was doing a good job, as was Gasly.
He was just... he was behind Lewis, so he would have been P6 or P7.
Yeah.
P7.
Yeah. So he was doing well. And then the other surprise, I guess, was Seb in that Aston Martin.
Yeah.
He looked good all weekend, really. Miles ahead of his teammate Stroll. Stroll just didn't seem to really get a hold of it this weekend. But Seb was flying. He could have finished fourth if he didn't lock up when he was getting past Ocon that time.
Yeah.
Unbelievable spin, though, to get it back round, wasn't it? It was so smooth. Like, oh, no, I've made a mistake. And then just give it some beans, get the car turned around, and then came back on.
Yeah.
Like, that was pretty impressive.
It looked like just a normal, like...
It was like a routine he'd already planned or something, wasn't it? Yeah. But yeah, he looked good. Questions about that Red Bull, though. That green Red Bull, sorry.
Yeah. It's been a little while. It's gone quiet. No one's saying anything.
Horner was very coy about it.
Yeah.
Almost just sort of said, didn't give much of an answer and just said the FIA's looking into it. That's sort of it. But I did think that once they start to understand that car, because if it is the Red Bull, that's currentently leading both championships by some way at the moment.
Yeah.
And I don't think this will be the end of that green Red Bull being up there. I think it's going to be up there for races to come, I think, especially in the hands of Seb.
Yeah.
With his luscious hair now as well. Out of nowhere. Might be the biggest surprise of the season so far is Seb's hair. Yeah. All right, so I'll quickly do a race rundown just to make sure we haven't missed anyone before we move on to other stuff. P1 was Max, obviously, 25 points. Checo was second. Russell third. Lewis fourth. Gasly fifth. Vettel sixth in the end. P7, Fernando Alonso. Again, doing his holding up trick, it seems.
Yeah. I wonder if he's going to get penalised for that at some point. It's not breaking any rules, but it is definitely frustrating for other drivers.
In a race, it doesn't matter, but in qualifying, there was big question marks over it with Albon.
Yeah.
I feel like, it did look a little bit, he broke early going into, I think, turn 15, which is quite a technical corner.
Yeah.
But it just looked a bit dodgy to me. Like, bear in mind, this is Fernando Alonso, the longest driver ever in F1. Had a 21-year career or whatever in F1. Multiple 2 world titles, all of this. We've been through this before in the Fernando Alonso episode we did. Just seems a little bit strange, doesn't it? And he got away with it. And I was thinking, even when we were watching qualifying, I was like, if I was Mercedes or someone, like for Alonso, always say that, Alonso, you would just go out there and just try and stop the cars behind you doing a good lap because then you're safe.
Yeah.
And it did seem a little bit like that. And I was thinking, if I thought of it, definitely the smartest people in the world that are in F1, they're going to be going, yeah, Alonso, just play games here.
Yeah, you'd still want to do a lap though and not...
But if you don't need to do a lap, you can save a set of tyres, go on a used set of tyres.
He did go out on a used set of tyres.
Do you know what I mean? I think he's playing games there.
Right.
I think he's kind of gamesmanship, isn't it? You don't want to see it, but he's being clever.
Yeah, but it's also not being very nice.
No. But it's a ruthless sport, F1, and any advantage you make count. So, also, that Alpine was rapid on the straight. So although it was slow in the corners, unbelievable speeds. Was it 347 kilometers an hour?
Oh, right. I think that was quicker than the Red Bulls.
Yeah, they basically had a flat rear wing nearly, and it was just ridiculously fast in the straights, but they didn't really make it work in terms of they were able to hold people up, but they couldn't really get past people.
No.
Anyway, P7, another chunk of points for Alonso, so that's pretty good. P8 for Daniel Ricciardo. We didn't mention about the McLarens, but a solid result for Ricciardo. P9 for Norris, but he was there 0.3 behind Ricciardo, and they were sort of going at each other the whole sort of race, like saying, oh, can I get past or can I get back in front and all of that. I do feel like Ricciardo had the pace over the whole race though.
Yeah, it's difficult to say. They're always on different tyres. They're on different strategies. They somehow managed to be next to each other anyway. So and it's a point difference. So I don't think it really matters.
No, if anything, I think that's more important for Ricciardo than Lando.
Yeah.
But Lando's not... I understand Lando's sort of eagerness. You don't want to give anyone an edge, even if that's your teammate.
Yeah.
Why would you want to give confidence to your teammate? Every racetrack, you want to beat them. So, yeah, I can understand that from Lando. Esteban Ocon in the other Alpine P10. Didn't hear much about Ocon, really.
No.
Bottas P11. A terrible weekend, really, for Bottas. Out-qualified by Zhou.
Yeah.
And didn't really seem to have the pace all weekend.
No.
I think the best thing about it is that Ferrari engine managed to finish.
Yeah.
I think that...
I
think he is the only Ferrari engine that finished. That's crazy, isn't it? P12 was Albon in the Williams. Yuki Tsunoda 13th. Probably should have finished a lot higher up than that if it wasn't for his DRS deciding to split in half. Haas, Mick Schumacher also Ferrari. P14, terrible weekend again for Mick. That's not going to have helped his confidence.
No.
Qualified last.
I know it sounds harsh, but he didn't crash this weekend. No. So that was a plus.
Yeah, I guess you're right. It didn't put out another bill for Haas.
He finished, and I think he's been having a bit of a bad run, so maybe just finishing a race was all he needed this week.
We said that with Latifi earlier on in the season, just finish a race, just get to that checker flag and build from that. So hopefully he can sort of build from that. But yeah, he didn't look quick. And behind him was Nicholas Latifi, who I think had just a terrible race. Like, got 10-second stop-go for his mechanic pushing him back after the 15 seconds announcement, or 15 seconds to the formation lap, which is a schoolboy error. I don't know what that mechanic was doing, because they all get told and everyone left. So that was weird. Obviously, that's not Latifi's fault, but that kind of happened. And then he got a 5-second penalty for ignoring blue flags, I think, in front of Gasly or something like that.
Gasly was behind him for a long time.
And he's another one that, you're just looking at going, come on, you just need to don't make silly mistakes. I understand it's a street circuit, it's difficult to get out of the way at certain points, but even so, like, that is rule 101. He wasn't really ever in a race with anyone because he was so far behind from the off. So, hopefully better for him at his home Grand Prix next. Looking at the DNFs though, we have Lance Stroll, P16. Again, that was a terrible weekend for him. Qualifying, he had a couple of weird incidents, didn't he? He had a big one.
Hit the walls. Hit the wall once and then hit the wall again, wasn't it? But badly the second time. Not so bad the first time. He probably should have pitted because of his tyres.
Yeah, and that probably did actually cause the actual big impact into the wall. But again, I think he may be under a bit of pressure. I don't think he will ever lose that seat as long as his dad's there. Unless his dad's going, do you know what, I don't think you're ever going to be able to do it.
But that doesn't mean that you don't have pressure. Your team's still going to be putting pressure on you, especially if
your teammates
Vettel's
finish
doing,
sick.
Yeah. And I mean, Vettel is a world champion, but still, you're going to be compared to him, aren't you, as a teammate? So
yeah, K-Mag it says non-classified, but DNF'd, as did Guan Yu Zhou, or Zhou Guan Yu, Charles Leclerc, and Carlos Sainz. So a quarter of the grid didn't finish. And in the notes, it just says Checo gets 1 point for the fastest lap, and Latifi, as we said, got that 5-second time penalty for ignoring blue flags. Okay, so we are going to move on to questions, and I think we've got another question from Brad.
Yeah, so it says, I feel for the drivers in post-race media polls where they must get asked the same question again and again. If you're able to ask a driver or drivers a post-race question, what do you think it might be? Then Brad added that he'd like to know who the drivers would like as their teammate, which could be a controversial question because...
It would be great though, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
It also says they're past or present. So, that would be interesting. I like to think that someone like Lewis would probably say something like Senna. But then again, I always think this is quite an interesting question because part of me is going, say, I don't know, I'm Lando and you just want to dominate your teammate. Would you go for someone like, I don't know, Maldonado? So someone that you could just absolutely destroy, you wouldn't have to worry about it. Or like, I don't know, Mazepin. You'd just go, I'll have Nikita because I'll just dominate him every race. Or would you go your idol, like Schumacher, Senna, Mansell, Prost, all of those ones? You see what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know if you'd want your idol to be your teammate though, because surely there'd be quite a bit of friction with trying to compete against them.
Well, this is what I'm saying. Do you want?
But at the same time, you do want someone that's going to push you along a little bit, surely.
You want someone that would sharpen your skills.
Yeah.
Because I feel like we saw that with a bit like Mick from last year where he had Mazepin. I don't think he really had to do much to beat Mazepin, in all honesty. And then this year where he's got K-Mag, who we've said is like a solid midfield driver.
Yeah.
And he's not really, he almost can't take that step up. So yeah, maybe you're right. There's a double-edged sword there. I think that would be quite a great question to ask them, wouldn't it? You're right though. I don't think, as Brad said, I don't think they ever would be able to answer that. But that would be a great insight. So what would you ask them?
I think I would ask them whether they like the 2021 or 2022 car.
Oh, interesting.
Which car is better? Or regs, 2021 or 2022 regs.
So yeah, would they prefer which car and the regulations? Yeah. Well, we know Lewis would definitely say 21, sorry. 22, he just can't quite get it at the moment, can he?
Yeah.
But then again, like, are you talking about, so let's say George Russell, right? He's currently in Mercedes, but
exactly,
21,
but
he was
last
in
year he was in Williams, yeah.
So
So he'd probably prefer this year.
Yeah, probably.
So it'd just be interesting to see.
Yeah, that's quite a good one. I think Max probably wouldn't mind. Checo would probably say 22, wouldn't he? I think he's got more
he's been
pace
doing better
22.
this year. Yeah.
Obviously, the Ferrari boys would probably say 22.
Having said that, they were doing quite well at the end of last year's season.
That is true, but they weren't
battling
top for race wins though, where they are this year.
Well, yeah, okay.
If the car doesn't
if the car gets there.
to break, yeah. Yeah, that's a great one. What would I want to ask? So I think I would want to go with more like a light-hearted question because I feel like they're all quite serious.
Yeah, it is. I do feel for them a little bit sometimes where they are asked to
So how was your race?
Well, explain the crashes and explain why they went into the wall. And, you know, it's like picking on all the mistakes that they've done. And it's like, give them a bit of a break.
Yeah, so it's like Leclerc today, the Ferrari boys, Charles and Carlos. Imagine them just going, don't worry about the crashing, but like just that question. Do you keep your ketchup in the fridge or in the cupboard? And they'll be like, I don't know, because part of me always thinks this, and this is a very important question that's gone around the world. It's similar to that. You know, are there more doors or wheels in the world? And you go, I've got to think about that. Like when you open up a bottle of ketchup, or I always put it in the fridge.
Yeah.
It makes it last longer. But do you need to? Because it's got so much salt in it. Would you actually need to? And then you could see their brains thinking about this. And you could also get the team principals in it as well, because I reckon they would, the engineers as well, they would get really properly. But
then you get people judging each other. Oh, you keep it in the cupboard. What?
Yeah, Alonso said he puts it in the basement. You'd be like, what is he doing down there? Something like that. And then the doors and wheels one, it's great because you could think, everything's got a door. Like cars have doors and they've got 4 wheels. But then some, when you open up a drawer, they've got little wheels in there. And you've got a fridge door. But
there's no wheels in the fridge door.
Yeah, you don't know, do you? So it's like everything's got wheels. All the gears and stuff in a gearbox in an F1 car, that technically is our wheel. So I mean, I think you go for stuff like that. Don't tell us about your race. Like we're focusing on proper questions here.
Yeah.
I think that'd be good.
World-leading questions. Yeah. No, that's also quite good. I also feel like it's also a bit of fun to learn that about drivers.
Yeah.
Like just to see what they say to random questions.
I feel like you're doing a service to the world there because you're getting like a survey of like 12 professional athletes, and this is what these people in the world say.
Isn't it 20?
Yeah. What did I say? 12?
12.
20. Oh, we somehow lost 8 drivers. But no, if you don't get higher than like the top 12, you can't answer this question. Could you imagine? Poor Latifi's never going to answer him. I really want to know where he keeps his ketchup. But yeah, no, that's what I would ask, I think.
Yeah. No, I think that's quite good, actually.
Let us know in the comments, like, what would you want to ask an F1 driver or the F1 drivers in the pen?
Yeah.
Be quite interesting to see what other people say.
Or you can also answer whether you keep ketchup in the fridge or not.
All right, so I feel like Canada's next week, so we've got to do predictions for that. So that is winner, loser, surprise. I feel like we need a jingle for this, but I don't really want to sing. But I thought before we do Canada's ones, we should go through our ones and just see how bad or how good they were. So
This week. So you mean this week, Baku's?
For Baku, yeah. So I went for Max to win, which was correct. And you rather bravely went for Leclerc.
It would have... Leclerc was P1.
He was P1,
before he was on pole. He was P1 before his engine went. So it wasn't a bad guess.
No, it's just that Ferrari, you have to account for
things. Yeah.
Loser?
So I said Checo, and I kind of feel like even though he got P2, he is a little bit of a loser.
I would kind of disagree, but I understand what you mean because he was so far off Max in the race.
Well, no, it was more the first corner, first lap, he was P1. And you thought he might actually win this. And then...
Not being allowed to fight Max
being allowed to fight Max and just letting Max go ahead. I don't know if that's because he didn't have the pace. But it just felt like, could Perez have won and didn't?
Okay, yeah, I could see that. Mine was Zhou Guanyu. I feel like he was actually doing really well.
Yeah.
But we mentioned this earlier that, he technically did DNF. It wasn't anything through his fault, so I don't know if that's still a right loser.
I would say so. If I can get away with my Checo being a loser, then you can get away with Zhou being a loser.
I feel like that he was actually better than Bottas all weekend, and it's just because his car decided, nope, that's it. Technically, he is a loser because he was one of the 5 DNFs, but yeah, that could have been bad on me there. Surprise! I went for Vettel getting another podium at Baku. He would have been blooming close if he didn't do that spin as well.
Yeah, that wasn't a bad one because they did really well this weekend. Mine was a bit off because I said Norris on podium, and that just they had no pace.
No, they look very slow, that McLaren this weekend. So overall, I don't think we've done too bad there. We also had Eddie chucking a prediction as well. He said Checo to win, which he didn't. Mick to be a loser. Kind of was. He wasn't really on it all weekend, was he? So that's kind of right. And then Vettel top 5, which he was blooming closer at the end, wasn't he? P6.
That's good predictions.
That was good. Bravo, Eddie. All right, so moving on to predictions for Canada, Robin. Who is your winner?
So I want to actually be correct next week.
For once.
So I'm going to do it proper. Oh. And I'm going to say Max.
Oh, interesting. Because I've gone the other way and I've just gone, at some point, Ferrari's luck will turn and Carlos Sainz's luck will turn.
I would like that. It'd be his first win.
Yeah, I've gone for Carlos.
Yeah, well, I'm going for Max. I think it's a little bit boring for Max to win all the time, so I don't particularly want him to, but I want to have a correct prediction, so I'm going for Max.
I think based on this weekend, I think, they've got 5 days until they're out on FP1 in Friday. Like, I think Max probably will rock up at Canada and just dominate again.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise me, but I'm just cheering for Carlos and hoping something good can happen. Hopefully he might be able to nick a win. Surprise.
Okay, so then I said I was going to do more reliable predictions, and I guess this one really is realistic. Yeah, that's it. I was going to go for more realistic predictions, and my surprise isn't very realistic, I don't think. I've said Bottas top 5.
Yeah, he had a tough weekend. Although I'm not sure if that's just track specific, like if that's just he doesn't get along with Baku. I can't remember his history of Baku.
He's won once at Baku.
But like last year, Checo won. Yeah. Vettel was second and Gasly was third. Where was Bottas and all that? I don't remember.
Maybe and that it's when he had an engine penalty or something.
Oh, and he would have just been stuck behind everyone. But all I'm saying is that Bottas could rock up at Canada and just be feeling it and put it up there. You never know. My one, I always want the home drivers to do well. So I've gone with both Canadian drivers to finish the race. To just finish the race, I think.
Yeah, because I think they take it in turns recently that one of them has to DNF or something.
And normally I'd be a bit ambitious and say, they're going to finish in the points or something. But I think Stroll could or has done this season. And that Aston might be all right. But I just feel like let's just finish the race, boys. Mm-hmm. Give the fans something to cheer.
Yeah.
And that takes us to losers. Who have you gone for?
Aston Martin.
Oh, no.
Because we haven't heard about their green Red Bull.
Yeah, as I was saying, it's gone very quiet.
I don't know if next week they're just going to go, we've got some penalties for copying.
You've been fined $1 million $100 million. $1 million isn't that much, is it? To normal people, that's a lot, but to Stroll, it would have to be like, I feel like, you know, Dr. Evil from Austin Powers, like $1 billion. It'd have to be something like that. So you think they're going to get done for copying? And is that just going to affect their weekend in general? Do you think they're going to have to go back to that other spec of car?
Yeah.
You think they're going to have to go back to the fat one?
Yeah.
Oh, that would be bad.
So they can't not copy. To be fair,
they got away with it.
Racing Point got away with it.
Yeah, the pink Mercedes at Racing Point got away with it. And that was over a brake duct as well. That wasn't even over the whole concept of the car.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same. Yeah, maybe. I've gone with Haas being the losers, as I think both drivers are going to crash out and Gunter's just going to go absolutely ballistic. He's going to go absolutely mental at them. He's going to be thinking, no, I won't say what he's going to say, but...
No. If you've watched Netflix, you'll know what he's going to say.
He's going to go nuts. I think he's going to possibly threaten to fire Schumacher and Magnussen, you know, like he's done with Magnussen and Grosjean and all of this. It's just going to go nuts. That's my thing. And it's going to make great TV for Drive to Survive. All right, so that is our predictions. And we are going to move on to fantasy. But the problem is that we're recording this quite quick after the race. And fantasy hasn't even updated yet.
No.
So we can't really do anything.
We've decided not to make changes.
Well, yeah, I kind of feel like Seb's doing me well at the moment.
Okay.
I'm tempted to get rid of K-Mag because I feel like that Haas.
Yeah, I have K-Mag. I was thinking whether I swap him for Bottas.
He's cheap though. That's my thinking, is that for me to have Leclerc.
I think I was trying to do that last week and I can't afford it. I'll need to swap someone else. I could swap Norris. He's also not performing really.
But it changes so quickly
it does.
as well. So like,
because I'd probably change him for Gasly, who did well this week, and then next week Gasly won't do well and Norris will do well. So I'm constantly like, I don't know what to do.
This is the problem with fantasy.
I need a bigger budget.
Yeah, 200 million would be great.
Yeah, then I can buy Max and
Checo.
All is well.
Yeah, you can have everyone. But no, the other thing is that I was going to say, like, Alonso seems to be getting consistent points now. But when I had him, he just thought it'd be funny just to
DNF, yeah.
Or get a hole in his side pod or something. So, yeah, classic. Yeah, I don't think we're going to make changes. And we can't view the tables at the moment. So, unfortunately, hopefully next week we'll be able to look at that. So, if you've joined the fantasy, you'll be given a shout out next week. And if you're not and you want to, there is a little code that you can add in a description. So join the fantasy if you want to join the fantasy league. And with that is actually going to wrap up this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, give us a rating or a review on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Music, wherever you're listening to this, or even YouTube. And yeah, also let us know your comments. We have an Instagram page where you can chuck in your predictions on the post we do with that, and just questions in general, or on YouTube, or wherever you can leave a comment. We will hopefully see it and get your questions in, a bit like we did with Brad this episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And next week is the Canadian Grand Prix. It's on, I want to say it's on at like 7 p.m. here in the UK.
Yeah.
So wherever you are in the world, it is a later one. For the Australians, I think that's even Monday morning, possibly.
That's tricky, isn't it?
That is a tricky one. I do feel for the Australians with the Grand Prix and stuff. It's always
timings isn't very good.
Terrible time for them. But yeah, hopefully enjoy a good Canadian Grand Prix. One of my favourites, Canada. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. Anyway, we'll have a review for that next week. And yeah, have a great week, everyone. And take care.
See ya.
Tires are okay for plan B.